long ago, in a far-away land, where monsters crawl and the horde of dragons never ends, a fearless crew was devising their plan, a legendary treasure containing riches of all the lands.
Crew, look in my backpack. Ooh. Bought a new map and this one's fantastic. Treasures galore, some deep ancient magic. A dragon or two, like we couldn't trump that.
Yeah.
Think of the riches, the fame, the romances. This is our chance now to make those advances. With Chloe in the front and Ava a blasting. My daggers a twirl while we'll be laughing.
Been looking ahead since our last adventure. How did I live without any magic? Got a new spell, I can't wait to test it. No spoilers, but this one's fantastic.
You two have that, I'll go hack and slash it. More dragons I see, more dragons I slay. Stay close to me so I can protect you. No cuts or wounds on your precious bodies.
Can I
join the party? No!
I wanna make my dad proud. Can I join, please? What?
And so, the adventurers set off into the dungeon. Little did they know, their unexpected guest had followed them into the depths.
Goblin after goblin after goblin after goblin, slaying all those goblins for that sweet, sweet treasure. Fire after fire, death after death. Roasted red s'mores are the best. We have to get through all these enemies, then we can find and fight a dragon.
It's Billy time! Billy beat the goblins! Billy beat the dungeon! Billy...
Shut up! We are literally trying to sneak into the dragon's lair.
That doesn't matter, cause Billy is...
Do you not understand that?
Billy is the best! Do you not understand that? Whoa! Dragon, come find me, please! I wanna kill you!
Shush!
Billy's dead.
Toasted Crisp! Wait, who's Billy?
I think the important thing is... The dragon is here!
Run away!
Will not escape. See you now. When you turn your back, I'm gonna pounce. Really cannot wait to eat you up. You must be cautious who you trust as a friend.
Trust me, dragon, he's not our friend. He was annoying till the very end. How he landed with us, I'll never know.
Yeah, you got your meal, so, can we get the treasure and go?
He's not just gonna let you do that.
Well, it was worth a try.
I'm working on actually fighting this dragon. Do you two want to help me here?
All right, magic rainbow!
A rainbow? How about a spell that actually helps?
Oh, sorry,
Ava, snap out of it. You said you had a new spell.
Oh yeah. Nico gotcha, kissa shot. Nico gotcha, kissa shot. Nico gotcha, kissa shot. Gata, gat. The orange bundle of the fluff. Hear me now, a fluffy one. Step out of the sun and give me a hand. Show me your belly, show me your chin. Show me your power to melt the world. Toe beans at the end, nugget in your head. Sugar and spice and everything fluffy and nice.
What?
You turned him into a cat?
And so, our heroes triumphed over the deadly dragon, and now all that remained was the treasure sleeping within. Together they lifted the lid, and the world stood still for a moment as the angels sang out upon the retrieval of the
Legendary shoes.
Why are these shoes salted? Can anyone answer me? Why the heck Are these shoes salted?
Welcome to Experidun, the January 2020 edition. I'm your host, ADDF Toxic. Whatever you do for work or for in your home time, let me know your thoughts on this topic. What does a time limit do to creativity? A few years ago, I probably would have heard that question and said, with a time limit, I don't get as much time to perfect my art, make sure that it's exactly what I want it to be. But nowadays, I think there's a little bit more nuance to that. Probably about 4.5 years ago, I started working on this project called South Mesa, and I was having a lot of trouble with it. I couldn't get the sounds that I wanted. I couldn't seem to play the guitar I couldn't get a good take, and I was starting to get really frustrated with that when I came across this stream called, when I came across Ben Burns' stream. He was doing this 2-hour track challenge, and he suggested that this is an idea that, everybody should try. He does it weekly. I decided to try it weekly as well. Made a track in 2 hours, and at first I didn't know what to do with it, but it kind of became my chance to experiment with different styles. One thing that I wasn't sure if I could make a song in 2 hours at first, but I really did. It gave me a chance to. It also helped me refine my style. It helped me to not be critical, as critical over the stuff that I was making. I listened to the first 2-hour track challenge I did, Electric Genesis, and I could honestly make that in half an hour now. If I knew where I was going at that time, I didn't quite know how to do that, but modern day I do, and I think that's definitely an advantage that I think came out of the challenge. There's stuff that I've finished in South Mesa now that it never felt right before. I never knew which direction to go. Or never felt like I was going in the right direction, because I didn't exactly know where the end point was. With the 2-hour track challenge, I forced myself to have an end point to this 2 hours, and it kind of helped me see what an end game looks like. That was a little over 2 years ago that I started doing this 2-hour track challenge weekly, and there was one. Ben Burns has made comments in the past about the 2-hour track challenge is really it's not meant to be a perfection, just like I said. But he's also said that it's a good place to start. Just use this song that you made as a springboard. You can still perfect it later. I've even looked at that and said, it could be a demo of a song. And in fact, one of the songs that I tried recording during a 2-hour track challenge early on, I have now re-recorded now that I know the song a little bit better, because I've heard the demo that I recorded in 2 hours. I've heard that a bunch of times, and I recorded a better version, and I'm releasing it in a couple months as a single. Now, fast forward to last year, a little bit later on. There was a 2-hour track challenge where it had company in town, and it just so coincided that the best day for me to do a 2-hour track challenge that week was the day that it was just her and I in the house. So I dragged her down to the studio and we made a song together. And something that's special about this song is that it took 4 hours. It's the first time that I actually went over the time limit and allowed myself to go over the time limit, because in the past I could see the end of the 2-hour time limit coming up, and work to finish up the song, however that may be, and I have gotten really good at that. But this particular time, we were having a lot of fun. We weren't quite ready to end. Honestly, what we had at the end of the 2 hours would have been a pretty good demo. It didn't have a solo yet. There was a little bit more talking that we did, and we re-recorded the vocals. That's really all we did for the second 2 hours. Fast forward another few months, Val and I agreed that the next time she's in town, we need to do this again, this sort of idea. And this time we included my sister, Sabrina, on it. And that's actually the song that played in the intro. And around the time that, in like the few weeks before she came, I started having ideas that I wanted to change up the 2-hour track challenge a little bit. Sure, I like the time limit, and I like the regular chance to make something that's not exactly, doesn't necessarily need to be special. I wasn't quite sure what direction I was going at the time, but the song that we made, the song that you just heard it took 14 hours in total. And it's actually kind of funny. We have 7 characters in that song, and that's 2 hours per character. That's the same with Failing Taskmaster's Mission. It's essentially 2 hours per character. But that's a little side note. What I was starting to realize, even in songs before we did that, is that the experimentation that I've been doing, 2 hours has been kind of feeling a little bit restrictive, but at the same time, the time limit will also help me. Also helps me to not spend too much time on something that's goofy or silly or something that I don't want to take too seriously. Not that I can't take goofy. Well, because here's the thing with me. A few years ago, I decided that if I make an album, I want it to be a little bit more tied together than just a collection of songs. I want the songs to flow into each other, probably have a story across the entire album. And South Mesa has that to a degree. There's a concept album that I've been planning for quite a while. Obviously, that's has a story across the whole thing. That's kind of the point. I still want to have this chance to experiment without it taking up all the time that I could be using on these albums. And that's actually was also restricted. That was also affected by me doing these songs weekly, which is why I decided to start doing them monthly instead. I mean, that and the fact that I'm not exactly going to be doing a strict 2-hour time limit, but, it's... unless, of course, it's a 2-hour album challenge. But they will... really, there is still a time limit on it. Even with some of the singles I released, like Wir sind auf dem Weg zu dir, I wanted to get that finished so that I could release it in March. So that's a time limit. Really, it's not a 2-hour time limit, but in a way, it's a time limit. So it's that kind of pushed me to really give myself time to get into the studio and actually make this, rather than just put a couple notes on the page every couple days, and eventually the album comes out, like I've been doing with South Mesa. So the song that played at the beginning of the show. As I kind of mentioned earlier, I already had ideas to move past the Name 2-Hour Track Challenge, and I wasn't quite sure how yet. I hadn't mentioned this to Val and Sabrina, that I'm not exactly going to be trying to be doing it in 2 hours. But, again, really, we did have a time limit. That time limit was the weekend, because Val was going to be leaving after the weekend was over, and we wanted to get it done that weekend. That's sort of that more broad idea is what I'm going to be going forward with my regular experiments, rather than one night a week to a strict 2-hour time limit. And I'm going to call this a QMT instead. Originally it stands for Quickly Made Track, but the official name is QMT. So, that said, let's take a look back at how this QMT was made. So we weren't sure where exactly we were going to start in this one. While we were having dinner, we were just kind of chatting about D&D and roleplay, and I was still trying to keep in the back of my mind, what kind of story should we aim for with this with the song that we're about to make. And then the idea came up to just basically make it a D&D campaign. That was kind of a starting point. Right after dinner, we went down. We came down here with the intention to start work, but that didn't really give us a start. Since we were on a time limit, it kind of forced us to just start. So I started by putting in a cello. This cello is from Symphony Series, as usual, when I use a cello from the string ensemble. And I just started playing this cello. Sounded pretty nice. I decided I'd add some violins on top. And then I also added horns on top of that as well. Just a little bit to match the cello notes at the end of each of these little phrases. And meanwhile, while I was writing this, or while I was adding this in, Val had my iPad, and I had it open to a document where we could write down the lyrics. And she started. I didn't realize it at the time, but she had already written this entire intro by the DM, and she read it out to us to get our thoughts. And we all said, "Yeah, that's great. Want to go in there and record that right now?" So that's how she became the DM.
Long ago, in a far away land.
And then after we recorded that, we kind of figured that it sounded like we needed to get a little bit heavier at this point. And we had a lot of trouble with this because I originally put in quite heavy drums and started playing around on the bass a little bit. Again, and actually you can even see that in the drafted lyrics that we wrote. Val ended up writing, dice dropped, the bass drops, he really dropped it, and the music goes nuts. It didn't quite turn out quite like that, and that's because when we were working with this, we decided that it felt too heavy to fit with the lyrics, because again, Val was already writing lyrics while I was messing around with the drums and stuff, and what she wrote did not fit with what I wrote. I wanted to see if I could maybe start off heavy and then slowly tone it down. I listen to music that does that all the time, but unfortunately I just couldn't channel that part of me, so I went and found a different drum rhythm and put that in instead. So the drums are from Easy Drummer, but I found a rhythm that was upbeat and still calm enough that the lyrics would sound through, and then I had to copy the first little bit of it into Ableton rather than into Easy Drummer, just because I needed to get rid of a kick drum at the beginning here, or else it would interfere with this dice drop here. And that is actually this die right here. I put the microphone up to my desk and I threw the die on the desk, and that's how that worked. And then this section here, after stripping everything out of this except for the die drop, we put in the drums, and then we started working on the vocals for this part, and then decided figured we'd worry about the rest of the instrumentation later. It ended up being just drums, and I think it sounds fine just like that.
Hey crew, look in my backpack. Ooh. Bought a new map and this one's fantastic.
So, the lyrics in this part here, it's really an introduction to all the characters, or the three main characters at least. We have Emery, who's has the longest verse in this part. She really wants treasure. That's her big goal with this adventure into this dungeon. She introduces the other two characters of the party, with Chloe in the front and Ava Ablaston. So Chloe is the tank, Ava is the spellcaster, and Emery is the DPS. So Val wrote that, stepped into the studio and recorded it. There is quite a bit of clipping on this. I know that is completely my bad. But it was, I figured it was such a good performance that I figured I'd forego the clipping, especially being on a time limit. Again, we can treat this as a demo. So anyways, Val recorded Emery's vocals here, and then Ava, who I spelled her name wrong first there, recorded her vocals, and then Chloe, I recorded vocals for Chloe. And when Sabrina and I went into the booth, we listened to this entire section before recording ours, and just kind of reacted to what the people before were saying.
Hey crew, look in my backpack. Ooh. Bought a new map and this one's fantastic. Treasures galore, some deep ancient magic. A drake.
Ava loves magic. So anyways, moving on to the next section, which is Ava's introduction verse.
Looking ahead since our last adventure.
This is my sister
How
on
did
vocals.
I live without any magic?
Clearly she loves magic. Chloe thinks that's kind of silly. A note here, my sister is not trained in singing at all. Val is, although it's been a while. I am as well, although I don't practice nearly enough. We're just in here having fun, so I don't think it matters enough to matters all that much here.
Got a new spell, I can't wait to test it. No spoilers, but this one's fantastic.
Yeah, and of course, she says that she has a new spell, but she's not going to say what it is yet. We'll find that out later. And then, of course, Chloe's introduction verse. This is mine.
It's fantastic!
You two have that, I'll go hack and slash it. More dragons I see, more dragons I slay.
So Chloe enjoys slaying the monsters in the dungeon. So yeah, Emery loves the treasure. Ava loves the being able to cast spells and do magic. Chloe just loves slaying dragons and goblins and monsters and whatnot. Since Chloe is kind of the tank and the really strong, it felt like it should be a really strong character. So I really lean into my deep and strong voice when I when I recorded any of this stuff.
It's fantastic!
You two have that, I'll go hack and slash it.
And then at the totally other end of the spectrum, we have Billy. Okay, so here's the thing with Billy. Billy's actually a character that we came up with early on when we first had the idea to basically make the song a D&D campaign. We decided what the treasure was going to be, and that it's not worth. The joke was made that the treasure is not worth Billy dying for. You know, Billy was just a name that Val just came off the top of her head. We decided that we should actually put Billy in, but Billy, we didn't want to kill one of our own party members, so we made him the really annoying character.
Hey guys, can I join the party? I wanna make my dad real proud. Can I join, please?
So that is me. A few things that had to do with Billy's part is obviously the really high voice, but also the other three introduction verses follow the same sort of melody and rhythm, kind of sort of thing. Billy just completely goes off the rails, just does not obey any of that. Chloe, Ava, and Emery went back into the studio afterwards and just sort of recorded reactions to Billy.
Can I join the party? No! I wanna make my dad proud. Can I join, please?
What?
those reactions took a big inspiration from Jack Sparrow by Lonely Island, when Michael Bolton does that the first couple lines about Jack Sparrow, and the other three are like, what? That was the big inspiration there. We actually even took a few minutes off to go and listen to that after we recorded that, because we found it quite funny. So, into this next section of the song, we took a little interlude for the DM to do a little bit more narration. It fits with the theme of D&D, and it also has the orchestral sounds. I only ended up using the strings in this one just because I kind of forgot to go back and do the rest. But these strings here, these were actually, when I was first working on the introduction verses, I was playing around with the ideas of putting violins in. And clearly it never happened, but while I was playing some chords on the violin, the cats were feeling lonely upstairs, so we decided to open the door and just let them hang out with us. Usually they slept on the couch. Sometimes they jumped on the keyboard. Tara decided to jump on the keyboard while I was playing some chords. And we ended up scrapping all the violin stuff for the introduction verses. But I kept this. Everybody wanted me to keep this. I wanted me to keep this. This is actually a little bit edited, but this whole clump here, that's Taryn jumping on the keys. She landed on the keys there while I was playing whatever chords here. After Val recorded the DM's part here, I extended this to add the rest of the chords, or whatever chords decided to go in, and a little bit more in the intro here. The cat also, she stepped on the pitch bend button on my keyboard. So let me just solo this. Yeah, so that Taryn is featured in that way in the song. We wanted to keep that just because it's fun.
Can I join, please?
What?
And I since I had the violin set to have a very long attack, it sounded good. It sounded better if I started that while Billy's still screaming about "Can I join, please?" And then it just kind of does the little cat sort of thing, and then after the cat's done interfering with the song,
And so,
with the notes, of
the
course,
adventurers
that's when I placed Val's reading of the transitional piece. I think she had recorded this actually before I even put the strings in place.
And so, the adventurers set off
Place it
into
later.
the dungeon. Little did they know, their unexpected guest had followed them into the depths.
And that's pretty straightforward. You know, Val wrote this little interlude narration. We did it actually originally right that Billy yells "yay" at unexpected guest, but it just did not fit, so it did not happen. That is not in the official lyrics. So this next section relies heavily on the electric bass, and I think I don't think I realized it at the time, but well, I mean, I know I didn't realize it at the time, but I think I may have been inspired by the mine music from Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure, because there's some pretty cool bass in that music. But yeah, I grabbed my electric bass for the first little bit into the dungeon. Played this all with my pick, because I wanted the sound of the bass when I play it with my pick, because it does sound a little bit different. It's also one of the most complicated bass lines I've done, but it's also kind of fun. It was quite fun to record this. I recorded a whole bunch of takes though. The lyrics for this part were already starting to be written, but they waited until they heard what I really wrote here, as far as instrumentation goes, to really finalize how the lyrics felt, just to make sure that we don't step on each other's toes again. And then after a while, I started playing with my finger at this point here. And I was going to see if I could drop the pick and start playing with my fingers, but I forgot where I was at this point here. So I just cheated and just stopped the recording, cut it off, and started a new recording. A little round of the bass at first, before Emery starts singing.
Goblin after goblin after goblin after goblin, slaying all those goblins for that sweet, sweet treasure. Fire after fire, death after death, roasted red s'mores are the best. We have to get...
Stop that there. The lyrics are pretty self-explanatory, I think. Just generic, you know, we're in the dungeon, we're fighting these goblins, we're going for this treasure. Ava's enjoying blasting these, roasting these rats and cooking them for s'mores or something. It's Ava. When we recorded this one was a little bit tricky. It's always tricky to record with the three of us because I have to set the settings on the mic to such different levels, especially between myself and the girls, because they're so soft, soft voiced, and I was obviously being very strong voiced, so I didn't need very much gain. I needed to turn it like up all the way to the top. It was crazy. So trying to go in and out of the studio, trying to reset those values all the time is never going to be the same. I did a lot of editing. I don't know if I did it on this one. Yeah, this is increased by 8.25 decibels after recording. I don't enjoy doing that, but well, if I have to. But we wanted to not have to go in and out of the studio all the time, so because we had to crawl to get in there too, the way I have it set up. So I put in these cues.
Emery.
Just to give an idea of
Ava.
Of when we're supposed to start singing. It worked for most of it. Some of the later stuff got a little bit more complicated. The second half of Ava's verse here, where we have to get through all these enemies, then we can fight a dragon. If we look at the drafted lyrics, I had written here, fight a dragon to death. And the reason for that is because this is where Billy interrupts.
We have to get through all these enemies, then we can find and fight a dragon. It's Billy time!
And we weren't quite sure where Billy was going to interrupt within these lyrics. So I had a vocal cue down at the bottom that says where Billy should start. But essentially this track that David recorded, this is actually the last thing we recorded because this was actually the morning of the second day that we started doing this. When we listened to this later, her voice was just barely awake. So we had to re-record this, which turned out a lot better. But yeah, I had Billy's part recorded here.
And fight a dragon.
And when she cuts off, when Ava cuts off here, she's actually being interrupted by Billy's track, because she could hear that. So I gave her the just some sort of cheesy lyrics, fight a dragon to death. We originally didn't know how we were going to end that line, and this is not the way to end it. We didn't think, but I wanted to give her something to work towards when she's reciting the lyrics, even though she knows that she's going to be interrupted. It's just easier to read than fight a dra. Yeah, like if that's all you have on the paper in front of you to read, and the interruption doesn't happen as early as it's written, then it sounds really awkward. So that's why there's a full set of lyrics in the drafts, but it's never actually heard in the song. So let's take a look at Billy's part here.
And fight a dragon. It's Billy time. Billy beat the goblins. Billy beat the dungeon. Billy.
Shut up! We are literally trying to sneak into the dragon's lair.
That doesn't matter, cause Billy is.
Do you not understand that?
Billy is the best. Do you not understand that? Whoa! Dragon, come find me, please. I wanna kill you.
Shush!
the way this was recorded was Chloe was recorded first. So again, Chloe is me.
Shut up!
I had a cue about in here that I figured where would be around where Billy needs to get interrupted. And then I recorded. I just recorded.
Shut up! We are literally trying.
Now this. I wanted to use like my deep and strong voice, but I also wanted to be whispering, and it kind of came out as a bit more of a growl than I wanted it to. This is one of those things that when you're on a time limit, at least I have this problem is I can't notice things like that. Sort of hindsight is 20/20 sort of thing. And it's one of the things that I found interesting about being on a time limit. You know, if I make a song in 2 hours, and I listen to it the next morning, sometimes it sounds completely different than the night before. Sometimes I make something really cool, and I thought I was making something really stupid. So yeah, in this case, it was actually kind of the opposite. I thought I was doing a good whisper in my deep, strong voice, and it sounded more like a growl. Val actually said it sounded like Batman, but okay. Anyway.
Shut up! We are literally trying to
recorded
sneak
this whole
into
bit.
the dragon's lair. Do you not understand that?
Had the idea to say, "Do you not understand that?" afterwards. Here's the drafted lyrics. All it has is just, "Shut up, we are literally trying to sneak into the dragon's lair." It does not have anything about, "Do you not understand that?" That was an ad-lib that I had thrown in there, and it never actually got replaced, so this is... Oh, it might have got moved a little bit, I guess. Something I didn't notice the day we were making this either. You can hear a cat jumping on the keyboard in the background. I could have easily cut that out, but I didn't realize it. I thought it was I thought that was the tail end of my voice, and if I cut it out, it would sound really weird. So I recorded that, and then I went in to record Billy's parts.
And fight a dragon.
And then this was, of course, before Ava recorded. Ava's part was recorded, so I was interrupted nothing at the time.
Fight a dragon. It's Billy time.
But when Chloe starts,
Billy beat the dungeon. Billy.
Shut up!
I let
We are
myself get
literally
interrupted by
trying
myself,
to
which was kind of
sneak
weird.
into the dragon's lair.
That doesn't matter, 'cause Billy
Do you not understand that?
Billy is the best. Do you not understand?
And again, there I had let myself get interrupted by myself, because when I was recording Billy's part, I had actually completely forgotten that that I did that "Do you not understand that" part. I just heard a pause, like it sounded like I'm supposed to respond, so I responded. And then, so like I said here, "Do you not understand that?" Or, I started to say Billy is the best.
Billy is the best.
And then I completed saying Billy is the best. It was the best thing I thought of. If we look at the draft of these lyrics here,
And fight.
for the first part here, it's pretty similar.
It's Billy time. Billy beat the goblins. Billy beat the dungeon. Billy.
Shut up!
So in the drafted lyrics, it doesn't say "It's Billy time." That's something that I added while I was in the studio. Billy is the best. Got interrupted by Chloe. That's just how it worked out. And also, just on a whim while I was in the studio, I added "Billy will beat the dungeon" because the dungeon isn't really beat yet. In the drafted lyrics, it says that Billy already beat the dungeon, and I just kind of added it just a half a syllable, just snuck it in there just to make it a little bit more accurate. But the second part of after Chloe interrupts Billy and tells him that we're trying to sneak into the dragon's lair, Billy continues to be annoying, and you can see the lyrics that Val wrote here for me. It's just back to Billy, woo woo woo, go nuts, Ryan. I did not even. I looked at that and it's like, okay, I'll just improv the whole thing.
That doesn't matter, 'cause Billy
Do you not understand that?
Billy is the
was a lot of fun to do. My voice cracked a little bit there, and I hear it every time. But hey, nothing's perfect. Right there, that's where it cracked. And then, of course, the party says shush, and that was just a case of we each go in there, say shush, or shh, place it all in the same place. And then we get this first part with the dragon. I put it in a group here called Killing Billy, because there's a lot that went into the dragon. So like here's the dragon group, because like I got the party group, right, and that includes the DM, Emery, Ava, Chloe, and hell, I even put Billy in there and the guest, which is just a small thing later. And then the dragon gets his own group because there's a group inside of that and then 2 other tracks. The group inside of that is Killing Billy. And this was kind of an idea that quite a while ago I did this 2-hour track challenge called Hell Incarnate. I was playing around with some effects and made this sound that sounds like the world is burning down. I wanted to see if I could recreate that again. It was essentially created by... I just stepped into the studio and recorded this. Cheesy fire sounds, added a flanger, added a delay, a massive delay with massive feedback, and then added a little audio effect rack. That's something I didn't know how to do at first when I did Hell Incarnate. So everything gets some reverb and some vinyl distortion and some ring mod, and just the low ends get a little bit of overdrive just to add some roughness to the lows. And then after everything, I use some automation on an equalizer to turn it down, because if I didn't have that, this lasts forever and ever. And that's not quite what we wanted. Something that I never did end up getting to do in this track is to go back and really add some reverb to make it sound like we're in dungeon halls, especially like turn that reverb on when we get down there and stuff. But yeah, that was just way too echoey, so I just cut it off at the end by sweeping the EQ down like that. And then underneath that there are three tracks of wood, as I called it. These are from Ben Burns' Get Wood sample pack, which is something that I layered on when I made Hell Incarnate as well, because I felt like it needed something to burn, and wood's a good thing to burn, and I think this sample pack was actually just released at that time too. So that helps there. And then after all the burning and stuff, these are some samples I never thought I'd actually need to use. These are from another Ben Burns sample pack. It's the fruit and veggie sample pack, and it's a lot of chewing apples. Here I used it to simulate the dragon chewing Billy, just to add the little bit of extra roast Billy and then eat him sort of feel. And while the crunching is going on. And then we get to this section where there's just a little bit of dialogue between the party. They really specify that Billy's dead vocally, in case it wasn't clear yet.
Billy's dead.
Toasted crisp! Wait, who's Billy?
I think the important thing is the dragon is here!
Ah! Run away!
Will not.
So starts off with Emery just stating that Billy's dead. Ava being a little bit ditzy. She gets all excited these toasted crisps, and then realizes that she doesn't actually know who Billy is. And then Chloe, ever so down to earth, points out that the dragon is right here. That's why Billy's dead. The dragon that we're trying to not alert is right here. So at this point, the metal. This is where the song gets super metal. We knew when we cut out the super heavy stuff early on that we wanted to bring it back when the dragon fight comes in, because that metal would fit really well there. Obviously electric bass, electric guitar, 2 tracks of that, and some drums. The drums are the same kit from Easy Drummer. I used the basic rock kit. It's not quite metal, but hey, it actually sounded pretty cool. I went and grabbed some metal rhythms to work with it. The section starts out with a fill, and then goes right into the chorus. This really pounding chorus. Here, let me solo this. So, super metal drums, electric bass. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I started the, this was tricky to record. I started the electric bass by just hitting a string and just sliding my finger all over it, and then landing at the note that I wanted to, which was really tricky to do, but I think I did it rather well in the end. And then just played a rather fast rhythm, put some rhythm guitar on top of that. Of an intro to it. That slam is just to somewhat slowly introduce the heaviness. I do record some of the instruments myself, the electric bass and the electric guitar I record myself. One thing to note about the lead guitar here, I knew I wanted a lead guitar on this part because it's a metal song. It felt like it really needed that. The thing is, I am garbage at metal guitar. So that's what I ended up with. Clearly, I cheated a whole bunch. I found some notes that I knew I was going to want to use in the melody. I recorded a pluck of each of them, and then just cut it all up, put numbers on it, just so that I could find them easily, so that I could like copy something to put it elsewhere. And then I ended up recording a separate ending note because I felt like it needed a little bit of whammy bar. I haven't used my whammy bar in so long, but I went and found it in my guitar bag and put it on and played the note and hit the whammy bar. That was rather tricky because I'm not used to it. And of course, my melody is just way off here. It's a couple notes. It ends a couple notes too late, later than I meant to, which made it really interesting trying to record the vocals at this part. But while I'm up here, you may notice that I put the electric bass, the rhythm guitar, and the lead guitar in a group here. And the reason I did that is because with the vocals were really hard to hear, especially the girls' vocals, with all this slamming metal in the background. So I put this equalizer that's just tears an entire section out of it. This is something that I did right at the very end, after we'd recorded everything else. Everybody else went upstairs and I stayed down just to fix the mix a little bit. This turns on right around this point. So 2 metal device on right there. So it's not affecting the electric bass and the cool goblin slaying part. It's only just trying to calm it down a little bit so we can hear the voices through it for the metal part. And then the vocals here start with the dragon having some vocals, having a few lines. And the reason I did that is because, partially because, I mean, we thought the dragon needed to say something, but also I just kind of felt like doing some death metal growls. And part of that is probably because just the weekend before that, when I was playing Karma Flow, I accidentally did some death metal growls, and I didn't even know I knew how. Oh, he got me.
Says me.
Run away!
You will not escape. I see you now. When you turn your back, I'm gonna pounce. Really cannot wait to eat you up. You must be cautious who you trust as a friend.
I wrote those lyrics and then recorded them rather quickly. Like I practiced a few times, but since I'm not really used to doing growls like that, I didn't want to practice it too much and then wreck my voice. And that's not the best growls in the world. I could even I could even do that better. But they were a quick recording for somewhat of a demo situation. Again, time limit of the weekend. It worked for what we needed. And then Ava responds to that. And Ava, played by my sister, is... my sister and I both listen to a lot of metal with female vocals. So we started writing out these lyrics, and she just kind of sang it with the music. I think because she's so used to that kind of stuff. And when we were talking about the lyrics, Val tried to sing along, and she just couldn't. And I think it's because she just doesn't listen to this kind of music like we do.
Trust is a friend.
Trust me, Dragon, he's not our friend. He was annoying till the very end. How he landed with us, we'll never know.
Yeah, you got your meal, so, can we get the treasure and go?
Just natural that she can't make a melody quite as easy as Sabrina can. And that's why that last line there, kind of my original idea for this part was to have really frequently changing between who the vocalist is. Like maybe 2 lines of Emery, or 2 lines of Ava, 2 lines of Emery, 2 lines of Ava, 2 lines of Chloe, or something like that. But then it ended up turning into Ava singing 3 lines, Emery speaking 1 line because she's not used to singing over metal, and then the rest of this verse essentially just broke into talking, which we recorded a lot of this. Just each of us go into the studio, record our lines, and then I positioned it later. That's why Emery hears this. This is take 14. This is also take 14. Some of the tonalities aren't quite right because you can't hear what the person before you actually said. But for something that was made within a weekend, within 14 hours, it's not too bad actually.
Yeah, you got your meal, so, can we get the treasure and go?
He's not just gonna let you do that.
Well, it was worth a try.
I'm working on actually fighting this dragon. Do you two want to help me here?
All right, magic rainbow!
A rainbow? How about a spell that actually helps?
Oh, sorry,
Ava, snap out of it. You said you had a new spell.
Oh yeah,
Right, so that's... I guess it's not, the rest of it isn't all talking, just that little part there. Emery trying to get out without being eaten, because Billy's already been eaten. And then Chloe gets upset with him because they're just talking about trying to escape, and he's actually up there trying to fight this dragon. Can I get some help? Ava starts panicking, casts just a rainbow. And when this rainbow gets cast, there's this broken wood glockenspiel sound. Which is from the Ben Burns toy box sample pack. You can actually see it in the picture there. Right on top, there's all those metal bars on a wood board. That's the broken wooden glockenspiel, and you just rub the mallet across that. I was actually looking for a sound effect for later, which I actually completely forgot to get. And I came across that, and right away all of us were like, put that right after right as the rainbow's cast. And so it happened.
A rainbow? How about a spell that actually helps?
oh, sorry.
And then Ava panics a little bit more. Emery
Ava,
gets her to
snap out of it. You said you had a new spell.
And then we get to the spell. Right around here is where we went for dinner. I remember this because we kind of talked about the spell over dinner a little bit. So when I made the drums for the metal section, I grabbed this chorus, this pre-chorus, and then the bridge and the bridge, and then the chorus and the pre-chorus. These are the exact same as these two. This is very pounding, so this is where I did all the
You will not escape. I see you now.
kind of stuff. You don't really need much space for a melody, so this pounding drum rhythm worked really well. This is where Ava starts singing about trust me, he's not a friend.
He was annoying till the very end.
That allows for a little bit more melody.
With us, we'll never know.
Yeah, you got your meal, so, can we get the treasure and go?
And then the
He's not just
discussion
gonna let you do that.
is just this entirety, this bridge area, essentially.
Well, it was worth a try.
And then we get over to this repeat of the chorus block.
Nico guts a piece of shot. Nico.
So this is the spell. This chorus and this pre-chorus. This is where Ava starts chanting her spell. the spell that she had referenced earlier, that she has this new spell, she's not going to say what it is. Emery reminded her that she has the spell, and maybe she should use it against this dragon. So again, this chorus is very pounding, which actually worked quite well with the lyrics. The lyrics in the first part are very, very magical.
Nico Gutsa keeps a shot. Nico Gutsa keeps a shot. Nico Gutsa keeps a shot. Gutta got the orange bundle.
So those are the magical lyrics that start off Ava's spell. The thing with these magical lyrics is it's actually all different languages. So Neko is cat in Japanese, Katsa is cat in German, Kisa is cat in Finnish, Shat is cat in French, Gatto is cat in Italian, and cat is cat in English. So essentially, this little bit of the of the lyrics are just cat, 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 cat. And that, but it sounds so much more like a magical spell just because it's in a whole bunch of different languages. And we picked languages that that sounded cool there, and I think with the pounding drums, the first three on each line being 2 syllables really fit with the do 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 do. And then the last one is 1 syllable. Maybe give a little bit of a second to breathe. And yeah, we get this first magical piece of the spell. One thing looking back is she was having trouble with the timing, and I guess I could have turned the click on, and I didn't even think of it. Honestly, she did pretty good in this whole part. She said she had a lot of trouble just not running out of breath in this entire spell, just because it's so jam-packed in there. Also, another interesting thing about this these lyrics is if we look at the drafted lyrics, somehow we read that gata is cat in some language, and when I tried searching that again, I could not figure out what language that was. But I figured it was close enough the way she said it to gato, which is I think we're aiming for, that I just wrote that in the official lyrics instead. I'm being told by Kirik in the live audience that gata is cat, the feminine version, and gato with 2 T's is the masculine version of cat. I guess we did get something right, and I just couldn't read my sources again when I checked later. The idea to use another language as a magical spell came from a song by Dark Sarah called Hunting the Dreamer. In the chorus of that song, Dark Sarah is casting a spell, it seems, except it's it's just a magical spell at first listen. But I was looking at the lyrics book, and I think it's actually it seems to be Finnish, which is actually Dark Sarah is from Finland. So it's kind of neat to they have the English lyrics and then the spell that's actually in Finnish. But if you don't recognize that, then it just sounds like a magical spell. And then we get to this part 2 of the spell. This is still during the pounding drums.
The orange bundle of the fluff. Hear me now, oh fluffy one. Step out of the sun and give me a hand.
So this was I was having troubles trying to figure out what else would go in a spell, and I sort of did an English summoning thing. Since the cats were wandering around the studio while we're doing this, I looked over and saw Tilly. She's kind of a very orange color, and so I looked at her and I'm like, orange bundle of the fluff, and she's very fluffy. So hear me now, a fluffy one. Step out of the sun and give me a hand. Step out of the sun, cats like to lie in the sun, sort of thing. And then at that point, we get back to this what Easy Drummer was calling the pre-chorus, which is a little bit lighter, so it's a little bit easier to sing some sort of melodic stuff to it. And again, Sabrina really listens to female vocal metal, much like I do. So it was a little bit. This melody just came natural to her.
Show me your belly, show me your chin, show me your power to melt the world. Toe beans at the end, nugget in your head, sugar and spice and everything fluffy and nice.
Oh, I love this. At this point in the spell, Ava is commanding commanding this great cat to come and help her or something. Sugar and spice and everything fluffy and nice is actually the first line that we wrote of this spell. It was before we even went to dinner, before I had the idea to make a part of the spell in other languages. And we decided that would go at the end. We wanted something about chicken nuggets because there was some sort of joke in the studio. The other thing about Tilly, the cat that I took a lot of inspiration from when I was writing this spell, her nickname is Stupid. We some of the stuff she does is we just call her Stupid all the time, and she even responds to it. So Nugget in your head kind of fits that idea, and then working back from there, cats have toe beans at the end of their arms. At the end is the only thing I could fit in there, but I think it worked. And it kind of sounds like she's rapping this part. It worked pretty nice, I think. The only complaint looking back is that nice is held for a little bit too long. I wish she would have said everything fluffy and nice, and just kind of ended it there. But you can't win them all. I adjusted the timing just a tiny little bit, just to make sure that nice is right at the end of the pounding metal and the drums and the guitars and all that. So I just shifted this over just a tiny little bit, just to make that timing right. And then, of course,
What?
the cat meows.
What?
You turned him into a cat?
And since that wasn't all that obvious, Emery and Chloe had to respond to that. Emery's just like, what? And Chloe actually kind of describes that the dragon actually became a cat. So at the end of the song, we end with another DM section, where the DM, voiced by Val, just explains the story. This is something that we were originally talking about having an entire verse dedicated to retrieving the treasure that is in this chest that the dragon was guarding. But due to time constraints, again, the question, we ended up just simplifying it into a single narration by the DM, of course, over the violins. And since the narration here mentions the angel singing out, there is also a choir, which I grabbed from Sound Iron Olympus Microchoir. I tend to use it a lot. It's cheap. It's good enough for the cheesy stuff I do. Threw that in there with the violins.
And so, our heroes triumphed over the deadly dragon, and now all that remained was the treasure sleeping within. Together they lifted the lid, and the world stood still for a moment as the angels sang out upon the retrieval of the
Legendary shoes.
Why are these shoes salted? Can anyone answer me? Why the hell are these shoes salted?
And that's basically the end of the song there. So the reference here is that the earlier song that Val and I had made together, Failing Taskmaster's Mission, Candela went and poured some salt on some shoes. And this was one of the ideas that we had early on. Actually, it's even referenced in the intro narration, the legendary treasure. So Candela poured salt on these shoes. Later in the song, Val whispers, "Legendary shoes," in the background of one of my verses. This is a standard narration by the DM, except that she cuts off after the, and we decided to put a since her sister was hanging out with us at the time, we shoved her into the studio and made her record the legendary shoes whisper this time. I just created a character called Guest just for the sake of the lyrics, and then obviously afterwards the Ava really pounds in that these shoes have salt on them. Just a little question. Serena tried a whole bunch of different styles of asking this question. And at the end, while she was in there, she just kind of started messing around. And that's where this whole, why the hell are these shoes salted came from. Because she just does that. She'll say things like that.
Why are these shoes salted? Can anyone answer me? Why the hell are these shoes salted?
And then, of course, the cat meowing in there, and I guess I should explain the cat. The cat is Taryn again. That's the same one that jumped on the keyboard earlier, and we kept that clip. Taryn doesn't exactly like to be held. I like to hold her, but she doesn't like it, so usually she'll meow. The morning of the second day that we were working on this, we let the cats downstairs. Whenever they get down here, the first thing they do is just roam around and explore everything, see what's new. The vocal booth is already set up. I pressed the record button. Taryn was roaming around. I stepped in there, and she walked in. I picked her up, and she meowed a few times, and then I put her down and just used those clips, placed them where a meow needed to be, because that meow is exactly the meow that I had in mind for after the dragon gets turned into a cat. That's kind of the reaction that I figured the dragon would have.
What?
You turned him into a cat?
That's all I have to say on this topic for today. If you have any thoughts,
land,
feel free to leave a comment.
where monsters
Other than that,
and the horde
Experidun
of
airs
dragons
the first
never
Wednesday of the
ends.
month. Every month is the schedule.
A fearless crew
and
was
have a good life.
devising their plan. A legendary treasure containing riches of all the lands.